Okay, this is Guns, Knives, and Watches. And I'm going to take you through my failures of the last 24 hours as far as weapons go. Do I learn something from my successes? Well, hell yeah, I'm different than every other motherfucker out there. People typically don't learn from their successes. I am no different than anyone else's. Failures tend to imprint chemically a larger pattern on the brain. So we tend to, as a human species, and the way our brain works biochemically, remember our failures more than we do our successes. We also tend to remember bad events more than we do good events. Because, and I'm not going to get into the biochemistry, just fuck it. Let's move forward. Now, this is the Ruger that I had on previously, and I was talking about some smack, man, about this, there, the other, how I didn't have any Ruger receivers that were stainless that had the treatment on it, that were like painted. Well, that's a fucking lie. I found that out by accident. Why? Because this is a very European type stock. Slender in the front, slender through here, that I was making it for Mrs. Guns, Knives, and Watches. The only problem is it's slender in its form factor, but it's still more for a larger geometry to use a scope, because the distance from here to this plane where a scope would be is quite high. And I'm not trying to train her to use and I'll show you in later videos, to use that form factor, because she's not going into battle with the SEALs or this, there, the other, So, instead of a cheek rest, a lot of military rifles have what they call a chin rest. But I digress. Now, it's that there receiver, boy. Let's get it to focus. If you can see around those screws where I have used a Brillo pad, we have worn through a coating. It's most probably evident right here, and which basically means there's a coating on this receiver, and this weapon is about to be broken down and go into like the vault, man. It's going to go into the media blasting area, and I'm going to media blast it and then take it through its finishing processes. And the one thing that I'm really going to have to watch out about when I'm doing that is the fit between the barrel and the receiver. That area, hopefully they didn't get any of the goo on it. But I still have to be aware of that, and I'm going to put a foam in there, just a foam something or other, to make sure there's no media getting in there, this, there, or the other, and changing those fittings, those tolerances. So next time you see this rifle, this is going to have a totally different finish, because I cannot deal with subpar crap. So I'm going to redo it, and I found out that just because the scope and the height over the stock was wrong for Mrs. Guns, Knives, and Watches. So took the scope off of it. Everything fits her really well. Same way these more European design stocks fit. And she likes it real a lot, and we're going to refinish the receiver. Now, where did that scope go? Well, the scope that was on that rifle is going to go onto her AR. Now, her AR is a Troy-built upper with a Spikes Tactical lower with a standard, that there, man, AR-15 M16 type grip, man, to try and get the distance from here to here as small as possible. Where if I used like a mag pull or some other type of grip where it would come up through here and as farther back, would give a much farther reach. The Troy has a very small diameter of forearm, which also fits her form factor rather well. And then, of course, we have a fully adjustable rear stock, and this is actually in the position in which she uses it. Now, I've used Badger rings, and these are the correct height for an AR, and then I've used 1-inch Badger inserts. And I know these are a little bit overkill for the application, but they work, and they're very solid. And of course, this is the Vortex Viper scope that was on that 22. Why? I could have put any scope. This is the lightest one that I have. It's also the easiest to adjust, given that that knob right there, into that knob, and it just goes from 2 to 7 really easily. It's good for hunting situations, this, that, or the other. And the diameter of this front, which whatever it is better than some of the ones that I have, which actually come out at about 30 millimeters, which is actually about a 26 millimeter objective. But anyway, I digress. This is actually her hunting rifle, which you can see it's made actually for a right-handed. We've got that there. This is a 511 sling, which is very adjustable depending on her clothing type, a Magpul type thing in the front, and this is the standard wrap in the back. So, out of that one failure of that 1022, I realized that I need to refinish that and need to do a few other things. And I built her up an AR to go hunting with, and that has a 16-inch barrel on it, of course, and instead of the 14.5-inch barrel she had shot, which gives it a little bit more muzzle velocity. Is it a whole lot? Probably not. Another failure that I have never actually put a scope on this. Man, this M1, man. M1A 308, of course. Of course, it has a scout type mount in the front, 20-inch barrel. That there stuff, man. And if anybody saw the old channel, of course they knew that I had a SOCOM, which was a 16-inch barrel, and then I traded up for this one just because I wanted the 20-inch barrel as opposed to the 16. Get a little more velocity. Is it going to get a lot more accuracy? No. But what it gives you is basically a more standardized front end to the longer one. Anybody knows that I started out with a national match, went to the SOCOM, and then went to this one. And then this is, of course, a Global Defense Initiative mount. I'm not saying this mount is affordable. This, there, the other. The rings that I have on this right now, because I've got them on there temporarily, suck. They're loopholed. They're quick release steel. At least they're 4x4s, which means they have 4 screws per mount. My only problem with it is the height of the scope. I'm going to get a little bit lower, and then I'm going to get them out of aluminum, which makes it a little bit lighter. Is the next set going to be much lower? No, because I can't have this scope interfere with this plane right through here, because you can still use the standard optics. Now, this is designed for people that shoot in a lot of different environments, and you have the ability to use your iron sights through this rail, and then mount your scopes mounted on top, and then you transition basically to a cheek mount. And I set, when I'm trying to train someone or teach someone or this, that, or the other, that type of shooting, what I would normally do is I would take a 1022, and then I would take a scope mount where you can use your iron sights and then also a scope. And it's kind of a funny type configuration if no one's ever seen it. And it puts your scope absurdly high, but it teaches you how to deal in that type of environment. And a lot of military units that have specialty applications use that type of setup where you have the ability to use those iron sights, and then you can transition to a scope mount. It's a very limited application, and they're very specialized units that use them. But for the people that do use them, they know how honestly useful, that type of skill is. Now, this gun, of course, is not that gun because the barrel is way too long. It's not suppressed, this, that, or the other, da, 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 da. How do you like me now? The real weapon, of course, that would have this mount on it is much different. These scope rings are just, you know, have a limited application, and the scope, of course, is just your standard 10 power scope. Of course, inch turrets, mil reticle with a focus in the back, just because I'm left-handed and I really don't like a focus over here on the side. It fits right-handed shooters really well. It does not fit left-handed shooters really well. But anyway, unless you're used to shooting in weird positions, and I'm not going to go there, but I really like it back over here. This is Guns, Knives, and Watches, and these are just some of the fails that I've gone through here recently. I never put a scope on this rifle, which I've had this put together for forever. I finally put Mrs. Guns, Knives, and Watches together an AR that basically more ergonomically fit her, and then changed the 1022. And unfortunately, as human beings, we just learn more from our failures than we do our successes. And these are just some of mine over the last, 24 hours. Have a good one. Peace out.